In the 12 years since the conflict in northeast Nigeria began, the violence, displacement, and ensuing devastation to livelihood and agricultural production has left over 8.4 million people with critical need for humanitarian aid, and more so in need for sustainable solutions. This emergency remains one of the most complex humanitarian crises in the world.
zazzabi ne ya kama shi a gida na kai shi kemis bai yi ba an sa mishi allura bai yi ba an ba shi magani bai yi ba an ce in yi na gargajiya na ce ba zan yi na gargajiya ba aka ce min to ki kai asibitin mashamare zaki samu lafiya ke da yaron ki ku dawo shine baban ya ce to maza zan kawo shi asibitin nan.
To meet the urgent needs and build resilience of the crisis-affected population across the Bay States, international NGOs in Nigeria have operations in the Northeast region.
NIF, the Nigeria NGO Forum, is a platform of international NGOs, 54 international organizations coming together, operating in Nigeria and finding a space within this forum to share their expertise, share information, coordinate, and address challenges that they may face together. Out of those 54 organizations, NGOs, over 45 are present and providing assistance in northeast Nigeria in Bay States.
These organizations have varying mandates, from INGOs that provide humanitarian assistance to those that engage in peace building to help prevent and solve conflicts in communities, and others that focus on development work. Each one questions the underlying factors that cause underdevelopment and tries to address them. As these organizations work directly with the affected communities and their governments, it then becomes important that all their efforts are coordinated. This is the core function of the Nigeria INGO Forum.
In the Bay States, Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa, the organizations, the INGOs alone, are supporting around 20 million people. Out of 35-40 million people across the entire country.
According to recent reports on the deterioration of the food security situation in the Bay States in 2022, 4.1 million people are projected to be food insecure in the ongoing lean season. Approximately 1.74 million children under 5 are expected to suffer from acute malnutrition. In Maiduguri, INGOs support children with severe cases of malnutrition, both with and without medical complications. For instance, in over 4 years of operations in the state capital, IRC has admitted over 4,000 children and infants. Martha David, a nutrition manager with IRC Nigeria, tells us their story.
As a humanitarian worker working with the nutrition sector, we're able to admit, treat, and refer children with severe acute malnutrition, either needing stabilization treatment or those that are handled at the outpatient therapeutic program. With this, we also focus on community engagement, which also captures some of our approaches, such as the Mama work, where we build the confidence of mothers and we teach them on how to be involved in the care of their children.
Sun san da wannan asibiti to ni da din bani da labarin wannan asibiti dan ni ai hijira ne naji labari akan suna kula da mutane suna bada magungunan su yana da karfi ranar alhamis na dawo kuma ranar juma'a wannan yaro na ya samu sauki.
In August 2022 alone, over 600 children with severe cases of malnutrition and medical complications were admitted in the IRC Stabilization Center.
We have focal person for each INGO, and all referrals are directed towards the facility that has enough bed spaces.
Banki, a town in the Bama local government area of Borno State at the border with Cameroon, has been one of the hotspots of the humanitarian crisis in northeast Nigeria. In Banki, with 64,392 internally displaced persons, the security situation remains volatile, and concerns about the protection of civilians are high. Freedom of movement is restricted due to a curfew after 6 p.m. for vehicles.
The conflict has taken a different dimension. It's been quite a dynamic one. And of recent, we experienced an indirect fire attack not far from here. And that puts a lot of lives at risk.
Transportation, storage, and warehousing of goods is just as essential to the sustained aid work in the region. In Adamawa State, the Wuro-Ganji Bridge, along with several other access routes, have been broken down, flooded, and are impassable, thus hampering the delivery of much required assistance to those most in need.
Not just the Wuro-Ganji Bridge, we have about 3 other bridges that are completely swept off or broken down along the way. We have about 370 refugees who are recently displaced from Cameroon, currently in Madagali, and we could not reach them with the shelter NFI that we have in our warehouse to deliver.
Access of people in need to assistance has been reinforced by the insecurity resulting from the ongoing conflict. Yet, the INGO community has proven critical in providing logistic support to some of these cut-off areas. Among the INGO's areas of support, food security, but also livelihood interventions play a key role to address short and long-term needs alike.
Where there is secure access to farmland, we will actually have a lot of people engaged in farming activities. We, as NRC, collaborated with BUSAB, Borno State Agricultural Program Development, to actually provide extension services to most of these farmers. With our intervention in the community in terms of the IGA support to support local businesses and small-scale businesses, most of the community members can now have a lot of commodities within their disposal at their communal level.
Ni sunana Mohamed Shuane, ni afefen dan nan ne dan Borno ne. Muka zo muna gudu mun zo muna noma muna gudu mu zo nan mu tafi na haka da iyayen mu manyan mu duka ba abinda muna ba su suna ci. To shi yasa yanzu shine lokacin bayan fada ne kuma mutane suka zo suna aiki ba su da kayan aiki. Shine wannan kungiyan da yanzu suka zo suka same mu suka zo suka taimake mu. Sun zo suka ba mu kayan aiki shine muka bubbude gwanaki mu da gwanan da nake noma kaɗan ne baya ishe ni shine waɗannan kungiyan sun zo sun same suna taimako na shine na bude gwana kuma na samu kayan aiki har na samu ni da kaina na sa yara na makaranta ina biyan kuɗin makarantansu har ina samu iyali na dukkan su lafiya ina ba iyali na kayan su da yara na dukkan muna ci muna sha alhamdulillah.
Acquiring new skills is critical to access livelihood opportunities, and psychosocial support is critical for reintegration. Both are key components of INGO support to affected communities.
It's aid that promotes people's growth from the individual person to the community level, and its multiplier effect is just numerous that you can't even mention. There are some particular cases like Yagana.
Ni sunana ya gana Muhammad Kacalla. Mun zo daga Gamborun Gala. Mun yi hijira, mun sha wahala sosai. A lokacin wayansu sun shiga cikin ruwa ma ba su samu fita ba. Allah ya taimake mu September dress ya zo. Muka dan fara saniyan nan da farko ma wannan saniyan ne na fara na jakan nan. Haka tukuna aka zo aka sake ba mu jari. An ba mu jari 70,000 aka ba mu. Muka je shikenan na kara saniya na wannan na jakan nan na kara na siya gunjoma a ciki yara ma ba ruwan su haka muna jin dadi kullum mun zauna mu ce kai Allah ya musu albarka mutane na kai yara na guda 8 ne wayanda suna zuwa suke taya min aiki su ma suna koya suna taya min hakan nan su 8 din in sun tashi ina da ba su abin su ina sallaman su.
INGOs have also become essential in mainstreaming IDP children back into schools. They identify vulnerable and out-of-school children and teach them literacy, numeracy, and socio-emotional skills to help reintegrate them into formal school structures. Also, their work in training teaching staff and providing school materials has been essential to a more functional education system across the Bay States.
You notice you interact with a learner and notice that, his performance, ability to read or write is very low, or you see children who are out of school, but now the impact is giving them a future because having the ability to speak, read and write goes a long way to help them. It's something that stays in them. I think for me, that's what I call sustainable. You can't take that away once a child has learned to read and write, so it stays with him forever, and then it kind of makes me happy. It's something that sometimes to manage stress, you try to help others, and what better avenue than being a humanitarian worker? So it's the platform for me to do what I love doing. So that's it.
Our greatest challenge is the dropout. Most of these children, because of their vulnerability, they cannot further their education. So when they came in, they set some mechanism where they screen these children, they classify them into various classes, and they teach them for like 9 months. Then they came to us as formal school. Then they integrated these children to us. Most of these children that were integrated, I'm happy to let you know that they are even doing better because of the training they received. And mostly they were here with all the learning materials. They have been provided with uniform, provided with sandals, provided with bags, and the writing materials.
A lot of what we do revolves around coordination. Coordination goes a long way to amplify our efforts. It goes a long way to ensure that there isn't double implementation.
At the center of the work that each of the organizations, each of the NGOs, each of the individuals there does is community. The idea is really to maximize the resources and the impact to be able to improve the lives of the people that the INGOs are working with of those millions of people who are in need of different type of assistance.
As the humanitarian crisis continues in the northeast region of Nigeria, INGOs in the region continue to play a critical role to address emergency needs, build resilience, and set the foundations for sustainable development. The challenges are multiple, and INGOs continue to address them internally, with their partners, as well as collectively. Government support in overcoming those challenges is critical. Only with everyone's support will INGO interventions in the region continue to save lives and empower communities.